So now that I'm coming back into my painting practice, I wanted to show you guys how I painted this beautiful cacti painting using negative painting technique. This is a super simple and straightforward technique. It just takes a little bit of patience and time, but it really does come out beautiful when you paint layer on top of layer on top of layer. It creates this beautiful effect of depth and contrast, and it's absolutely gorgeous. Before we start with this tutorial, I wanted to give you guys a super quick update on what's been going on after the whole ordeal with Etsy and why I had abandoned my business. Not my business, but my art, the painting part of my business. And if you guys want to check out that video, it's like right here. I will put it in a card, and it was just very frustrating, devastating, all the hours invested in it. But I'm moving forward. I'm moving, into my art a little bit more, leaning into my art a little bit more. And I started my Shopify store. So in this store, I'm being more like true to my art, and it's right here. And having said all of that, oh my goodness, I am going to start the tutorial now, and I hope you guys enjoy it. If you learn anything from the video, again, don't forget to subscribe, don't forget to like the video so more people get a chance to see it. Let's just get started. Let's just start. Alright, so as per the usual, we have a clean water, and I am going to use my Arches watercolor paper. Then typically I use turquoise, indigo, cadmium red orange, and cadmium yellow. I have them already kind of set up on my little palettes. Like I have them diluted with water just so I have them ready. I am going to use primarily for the base a large brush. You can use any large brush, and I am going to use a natural brush that is number 20, but it's typically like a number 2 or something like that, a round brush that can hold a lot of water. Now for the sketching part of it, I am going to use these color pencils. These are color pencils I got in Cacti, or you can just use a regular lead pencil. So those are the materials. So I am just going to start by wetting the entire surface of the paper. I typically leave like a little bit of a frame, but I'm just wetting it with clean water. Okay, so now that the paper is nice and wet, it has a bit of a shimmer, and it creates a little bit of pooling in the edges, but not a whole lot, just enough that you can see the water moving. So with the same large brush, I am grabbing some of my turquoise color because I want my first layer to be very light. So I'm just gonna go ahead and emphasize a little bit where the edges are, and just dabbing a little bit of my paint, not a whole lot. Then I'm gonna grab a little bit of the cadmium yellow and just dab it here and there, just a tiny bit. Remember, the watercolor is going to dry a little bit less saturated, like light. That's what I'm looking for. It dries lighter. So I am just going to move it around, see how it pulls in the edges, and that is okay. I'm just going to move the paper around so it creates like an even but beautiful, like contrasting first layer, and just let it blend a little bit, but not too much. You still want to see a little bit of green, a little bit of yellow, and a little bit of turquoise. So I'm just gonna leave it like this, and I'm going to let it dry. Okay, so now that the paper is completely dry, I let it air dry, and I'm going to go ahead and paint draw, not paint, the first layer of the cacti. So, not being super knowledgeable about cacti, but let's just draw some cacti looking shapes. I think that's okay. For the first layer, I'm just gonna go ahead and paint everything except the inside of these. So I went ahead and grabbed a brush that has a very fine point because I'm gonna go into details like this. So now I'm gonna grab again a little bit of turquoise and a tiny little bit of indigo, and I mix it here, and that will give me a nice secondary base. So as you see how like it is very dark, so I'm going to dilute it a little bit with water so it's not super dark. I still need it to be light enough, but darker than the first layer. So just with a darker color, I'm using indigo turquoise and a little bit of yellow as well. So I'm just going to dab a little bit of yellow so I maintain my green kind of vibrant composition. So I'm painting everything except the shapes that I just drew. Okay, so now that we have our first layer of cacti, I'm gonna let this entire thing dry again, and then I'm going to do a second layer. Okay, so now that the layer is completely dry, the first layer, I'm gonna go ahead and again with my colored pencil, I'm going to draw more cacti in the back. So I am going to leave it like this. I'm going to paint everything except this layer and this layer. I'm going to grab some of this color and a little indigo, a little cadmium yellow, and it's going to give me a very nice green. Now with a little bit of water, I'm just gonna go ahead and start painting along the edge of my pencil line. Alright, so now we are done with the second layer, and I will do maybe 1 or 2 more layers. So while the layer behind completely dries, I need to make sure that it completely dries. I'm going to add the detail on these cacti. So I'm going to grab a very light green, so just using my thin, very small brush and some water, and I am going to add just some details. So again, I am using a colored pencil to draw my background layer. So I'm just filling in the empty spaces with tall cacti, basically. I think these 3 are gonna be enough, and I will paint everything except what I just drew. Alright, so now in this layer I am going to use even a darker tone of a mixture of green and indigo, and I'm gonna go ahead and paint everything except the first, second, and now this third layer. So it's going to be a very intense and deep green with touches of just pure indigo. Okay, so we are done with this layer, and for the very last layer I am going to do just pure indigo. I am not going to do more yellow, just to give it that really intense depth. So I'm going to let this layer dry and we'll move on with the last layer. Alright, so now that this layer is completely and absolutely dry, I am going to do the very last layer. So again, I am using my pencil, my color pencil, and I am only going to use indigo. So I'm going to go ahead and draw my shapes and then move on with the painting. Okay, so I am completely done with all my layers of this negative painting. And remember that I painted first this one layer, then the second layer, then I believe this was the third layer, and then now this one is the fourth layer. You can possibly have another layer in the background, but I don't think it's necessary. I will add, oopsies. Oh, it's okay. I will add a little bit of detail with this last pigment, which is indigo. I will add a little bit of detail in the background layer cacti, just to give it a little bit more detail. But if you guys want to end the tutorial right now, it's perfectly fine. I think it came out really nicely. Again, let me know in the comments if you have any questions about the tutorial, the techniques, or the materials. I am here to help. Don't forget to like and subscribe to stay up to date in all the content that I am uploading regularly. I'll see you guys in the next video.